We're about to go real live.
Frontline Financial Services offers affordable tax preparation with the maximum refunds you deserve. We file federal plus state tax returns with free phone estimates, fast refunds, and an advance loan as high as $6,000 on the same day. Your documents can be received through text, email, or WhatsApp, and you can take advantage of our mobile and virtual filing services. Call or visit our website today and let us earn your business. Frontline Financial Services. We take the lead. GAM Recap Show, the show where objectivity is manifested to the core. Watch out as hosts Ib Senghor and the erudite Sheriff Cora dig deep into the trending issues including politics, health, education, entertainment, and much more. Join us every Saturday at 5 p.m. GMT, only on LSTV 1.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Ib Senghor, and this is the GAM Recap Show. And I have my co-host Sheriff and also Afridamus, so I'll allow them to give a little bit introduction of who they are. And today, and then we'll talk about the topic today, and then start the discussion. So Sheriff, if you can go ahead and start, and then we'll move it to Afridamus.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Good morning to the viewers on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those on the East Coast and Central United States. And good evening to those in the Gambia, Europe, and other parts of the world. Welcome to the GAM Recap Show. We have some exciting discussions today with my co-panelists, and enjoy. And pass on to Mr. Afridamus, the well-versed, Gambian elite who always, contributes, positively in these discussions. Mr. Afridamus, the floor is yours.
Thank you for having me, and good morning to my West Coast viewers, and good afternoon and good evening to wherever you are. And I'm excited to be here and for us to discuss this topic, and we'll see where we go with it.
All right. Thank you for that brief introduction, Mr. Afridamus. And today, what we will be discussing has to do with the coup in Mali. For the past week and a half, we've been seeing in the news what's happening in Mali. The military did a quick mutiny over there and then took over the country, arrested the president, IBK, and also his prime minister. So with that also, we've seen the ECOWAS, which is the Economic Community of West African States. They've been sending people there. They also held virtual meetings, also held in-person meetings with the military junta over there, trying to discuss ways of bringing them back the country into civilian rule. But there's a quick back and forth because the military over there is trying to push for a 3-year rule transitional program, whereas ECOWAS is pushing for something up to 12 months or maybe less than 12 months. So historically, we've seen military takeovers happen in Africa, and even in our own case, the Gambia, that has happened. And whenever these people take over, they want to be there for a few years. And with that being the case, we'll center our discussions on why the coup happened in Mali. What do we expect to get out of there, and what impact do you think that this coup will have, in the sub-region, which is the West African sub-region? So we will start with Mr. Sheriff. What do you think is behind the coup? Why do you think Mali, needed to have this coup in the first sense, Mr. Sheriff?
Thank you, Ibrahim. I don't know if Mali needed to have the coup. I don't believe military intervention is ever a solution to the political problem of the country.
Can you lean forward a little bit, Mr. Sheriff? Okay.
Yes, can you hear me better now?
Yes.
As I was saying, I don't think Mali necessarily needed a military coup. because military intervention is never a sustainable solution to the political problems of the country. Mali is a constitutional democracy, and this should have been a political problem that was solved through the political process. So that being said, we have to look at the things that happened in Mali prior to the coup, and what necessitated this unfortunate intervention of the military in solving the political crisis. Well, as we all know, the country has been going through some sort of a jihadist movement, and that has prolonged. I think it began since in 2012 when the jihadist movement started in the country, and that's created a lot of discontent among the people because the government could not contain the jihadists, and they had a multinational force that was present the government of Mali in combating Al Qaeda in the Maghreb and other local insurgents that joined the band. So that's one problem within the country. And secondly, Mali is a landlocked country that has been dealing with a lot of economic poverty, and as all other West African countries, it has a very vibrant youth population, and most of them are unemployed, added to political corruption, especially with the president's government having some sort of a confidence issue regarding the elections that happened. That the people did not really believe that was a fair election. So that was also a problem, and people took to the street, based on the activism of I think it was the June 5th movement that they had, and the cleric Mr. Diko was like a very sounding voice that motivated the youth to fight for reforms within the country. The president of Babakar Keita resigned, as we all know, and he was still very insistent on running the government when he had lost the confidence of his own government initially and the confidence of his people. So this was a protracted discontent within the people, and it led to a wave of unrest. The response of the military and other security forces in detaining, arresting, and quite honestly using certain methods that some people were killed, as we all know. So I believe this was it's very typical of African governments. If you don't listen to a loyal opposition, at the end of the day you'll become a victim.
Okay.
At the end of the day, you become a victim of a disloyal opposition. So when the civilian forces are there, and you have the civil society organizations and other movements trying to fight for reform and for their concerns to be heard, this government doesn't listen to those legitimate voices. At the end of the day, what happens is you will have the military intervene, and when they do, like you said, they are advocating to stay for 3 years. The military has no business, to rule a country because, number one, they don't have, the political knowledge. They don't have the technocratic expertise to run a government. And ultimately, it's not going to solve Mali's problem. The people advocated for change. The military brought a regime change, but they are not the ones, that are going to bring the political reforms that they are yearning for.
Okay. Thank you for that brief insight, Sheriff. So we'll go back to Mr. Afridamo. So, I mean, we've seen detention since June. We've seen the political unrest over there, people protesting, trying to have the president resign. So we've also seen the militia over there in the north and the instability, gangs in Mali causing all kinds of problems in the country. So now, what do you think? Do you think because the people's voices haven't been heard, they've been protesting for over 2 months, and the government never acquiesced, to their demands? So, do you think it's a necessity for the military to intervene, in certain cases? I'm not trying to justify military coups, but is it a necessity sometimes when the people's voices are not heard for the military to come and intervene? Afridamos.
Thank you, Mr. Senghor. Yeah, I'll give a different perspective on what Sheriff gave here. This coup, legitimate coup, I want to start from there. We have to look at what actually caused the coup in the first place. I know we want to talk about having civilian governments, but in Mali, they had a civilian government, who have shown every way of incompetence, corruption, nepotism, and they couldn't even honor the peace deal that they signed with the jihadis up north. And let's not forget about French meddling. The people of Mali were tired of the civil. This is why we are seeing, pictures coming from Mali, videos coming from Mali, the civilian people standing, the civilians standing with the military. This is the second coup in 8 years. And let's not also forget that the President Keita, he himself realized at some point that he was incompetent and he tried to resign. But you have people like Ouattara of Ivory Coast, who himself is looking at, usurping the power in Ivory Coast to go for a third term. And his excuse is, he said, the person he was grooming to replace him, that person died. Okay, so we have to look at these problems. Today in Africa, West Africa, especially in the Francophone part of West Africa, we have people who are French puppets, and these people do not represent the will of their own people. And I believe we're going to continue to see this type of things happening. West Africa have, people have did away with the coups. People got tired of them. But now the trend is headed in that direction where our civilian presidents are so incompetent and corrupt that the coups have to return back. You see what I'm saying? In Mali, this was necessary. There's no ifs and buts about it. It's not about military or non-military. It's about competence and incompetence. So what? They're going to just hand it over to the same civilians who they would have to remove right away. This problem just began. This is just the beginning. Next month or in October, we're going to see the same thing happening in Ivory Coast because Ouattara have intentions to keep going. He encouraged President Keita to remain in power because he believes that if he resigns, that would empower the people of Ivory Coast to go against him. So he is the one that is leading. He's the one that is leading, the condemnation of this coup, through ECOWAS. We have to ask the question: where was ECOWAS when Mali was going through this turmoil? Where was ECOWAS when Mali is fighting jihadis up north? So we cannot just, gloss over these things and expect something to come out of it. And Mali is just the beginning. Ivory Coast is going to be next.
All right. So
Guinea-Conakry is going to be
wow.
next.
So you are predicting that because of what happened, we're going to have a ripple effect to other countries, like that spillover is going to go into Ivory Coast when the president's term is due, and also Guinea-Conakry. So, Mr. Abdullah, let me ask you: is this why you have on this military fatigue shot there?
Yes, I am standing in solidarity with the military men that heard the cry of the people and went out there and arrest these criminals who are pretending to represent the interests of the people when in fact they are gangsters, they are French puppets who have no interest in improving the lives of the people. So the power belongs to the people, and the people gave the power to the military. Simple as that.
So you are in support of the military coup. So
Yes.
you know we've seen in the Gambia during the Truth and Reconciliation Commission over there. So we've seen the lead counsel S01 going back and forth with Edward Singade or some of the leaders of the coup back in Gambia, trying to talk about the constitutionality of the coup or whatnot. Is it the military's role in order to take? And I see that Mr. Sheriff here, you know, is in sharp contrast with you because he disagrees that the military should intervene. So, Mr. Sheriff, can you add on to what Apidamus just said in terms of his support and thinking that the military taking over was the right thing for Mali?
Yeah, what he said was what happened in Mali is likely to happen in Guinea, and it's likely to happen in Ivory Coast, because there's a rising discontent in each of these two countries, and the reason for the people being unhappy with the political elite are very similar. You have this imperial presidents, you know, in all these, three countries, that want to hold on to power forever. They don't want to give up power, and the people are having, a certain expectation that is different from theirs. They want change, and they don't want to leave. So, if we tend to legitimize or rationalize why the military would intervene in politics, just like Mr. Afridemos is saying, this is an excuse that they would use. They are out there to protect the people. That's a rationale that they always give. But history has shown that the military has never been a solution to Africa's problems. They bring change because they have arms, yes. But when they stay in power, after they leave, we come to find out that they set the country back. We have seen that in the Gambia. And the last military coup that happened in Africa before Mali actually was in Zimbabwe, when Mugabe was overthrown. But you will see the problems that were in Zimbabwe prior to the coup are still there. And matter of fact, they've even gotten worse. Zimbabwe is going back to the same malpractices, the same corruption, and the same era of malgovernance that was there prior to the coup that removed Mugabe from power. So the African military should stay in the barracks. We need to hold our governments accountable. We need to call for reform. We need to put pressures, in them to change in ways that is different from taking up arms, to bring regime change. Regime change alone is not sufficient, to bring political reforms or bring, economic, growth, in a country. And we thought, West Africa has turned its back from military coups, but as he said, it's coming back again. And they need to be condemned because they do not solve our problems. They can bring regime change, but they do not really necessarily solve the problems that led them to first of all taking the government out of power. And he did mention one thing: don't even take your country Gambia out of the picture. Don't take Gambia out of the picture, because
no, we'll come to that. We'll come to that one.
Yeah, but I understand.
Come to the Gambia. No, you're fine.
I understand what Mr. Afridemos is saying, and I agree with him. I agree with him. It is the stubbornness of this military, of this civilian presidents who believe that the government or the country belongs to them. They cling on to power. They don't want to listen to the voice of the people. And at the end of the day, these extreme measures are taken where the military would intervene in power. But the military does not have any business in going to overthrowing a government, and bringing change. ECOWAS, he didn't mention ECOWAS. I think ECOWAS, did what it could. We might want to, you're coming back to Gambia, but let me just say this, first. ECOWAS is a bloc, that is, formed, by various nations. It can only play an advisory role or, to mediate, between the civilian population and, the political elites. He cannot really come and, use arms, except under, extraordinary circumstances like what happened, in the Gambia. I mean, they had to do that. But Mali was a different case, because Mali's case, arose, from like a constitutional crisis that was, decided by the courts, but the people still did not want to uphold what the court, decided. So ECOWAS, they did their best, but again, the people did not want, this man to stay in power. And we have to realize the French are not the only ones, who are operating in Mali. There's a multinational force that is composed of other ECOWAS countries, that are operating, on the northern, side of Mali. The French are there, the Americans were there, the Americans withdrew, and President Trump, actually withdrew all the support, financially, towards, combating, the jihadis, within the north. And that also, created some sort of a problem, when it comes, to fighting the jihadis, to bring peace, in that part of Mali. So there are also external factors too we have to look at. But Mr. Afridamos, I think we can disagree on this, but I don't think the military is ever a solution to a political problem. They need to stay in the barracks. That's where they belong. That's what they're trying to do.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Skora. So he mentioned that the military has no business in running a country, or he also talked about, historically what happened in other African countries. So Afridamos, we've seen in the case of Gambia, we've seen in Ghana, a lot of other African countries where the military intervened. So they will bring they'll bring regime change. We've seen that, but system change, happens to be an obstacle for them. So big impediment for them to kind of pursue. So looking at that, historically, what each country has learned about military coups. Why is it that, whenever these coups happen, even in the case of Mali, people are in the streets and jubilating, people are excited and happy about, this coup? Is it normal to see people celebrating coups when historically we've known that, it does not end well?
Is this question for me?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we have to remember one thing. I know we like to talk about the constitutionalities of things, but there's a difference between ideal world and what reality is. Yes, I understand in the era military coups that went left, but we also know there are military men, who today, for example, in Rwanda, Paul Kagame, this man fought in the jungles of the Congo and liberated his people. And today we see what Rwanda is like. He liberated his people. So there are outliers that we've seen. But the dissatisfaction of the people, if the Constitution is about the people, we also have to respect that. We cannot always just throw out constitutions, when the civilian governments are overtaken. Yeah, you gave an example about Gambia. You look at this, I'm glad you brought that up. Gambia's situation is similar, was similar to that of what Mali is today. When Yahya Jammeh took over, people supported him. I know there are a lot of, people want to only look at the negative side of things, but Yahya Jammeh has also brought lots of changes. He changed the trajectory of the country. Let's not forget that when we had President Jawara there, he had foreign troops protecting him, which is the Nigerians. So what was his intention? You see what I'm saying? And today we're seeing that same thing. When Yahya Jammeh took over, he saved us from French and Senegalese colonization as we are headed in today, which is actually a recipe for future civil disobedience and pretty much setting us up for a war with Senegal. It's coming. We'll get into that. But we cannot ignore the will of the people. We cannot have people in power who believe that they have to be the ones to decide, who gets to be in power or not. Did you guys how do you guys just conveniently ignore the fact that these countries, they have constitutions, right? But these presidents, they just, they would change the constitution whenever it fits them. If it says 2 terms, when their 2 terms is up, they change the constitution to try to put themselves in in the 3rd term. We have to speak about this. It goes both ways. If we see people in power that are not respecting the constitution, the military has to step in and
So
hear
not
the
to cut
the
you,
cry of
Mr.
the
Aphrodite.
people. Go
So
ahead.
why do you think some of these leaders are hell bent on twisting the constitution for a third term in office?
Because of the puppet master behind. Okay, I'm gonna bring something up here. If you look at it, right,
Okay.
in the Gambia, during the impasse, even right now, right?
Yes.
Which troops do we have in Gambia? Are they from English-speaking country, or they're from Francophone country?
Senegalese, mostly. Senegalese, mostly, yes.
Okay, so Mr. Alassane Ouattara of Ivory Coast, he's not Ivorian. You can go look this up. He's from Upper Volta back in 1963, which is today Burkina Faso. Okay? There is no one, you cannot find anybody in Ivory Coast that would tell you, oh, I was his teacher. I went to school with him. He's from Burkina Faso. He used to be an employee of the IMF. So when the reason why the French brought him and put him in power in Ivory Coast is to control the banking system of their Francophone country. But now, French are they're expanding their control over the various countries in Africa. If you look at it, Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia, they have totally different problems from the Francophone countries. So
Right.
Alassane Ouattara is a big problem, a good representation for the French, because Condé in Guinea, for example, did not win the elections. I would get to that. He didn't win the election, but he still held on to power, right? Guinea-Bissau,
Right.
former Portuguese colony. Isn't it interesting to you that these people are using the CFA? That should be a very interesting thing, right? So Gambia is gonna eventually morph. Gambia is gonna eventually, join the CFA. Senegal is, they can do whatever in Gambia today. They can even go in and arrest people in the Gambia if they want to. Senegal, they are building a dam.
Is that not part
when
of
that dam is done,
the bilateral
that's gonna affect
between the two countries?
This is, man, we have to not only look at the surface of things. We have to look deep. We have to look at who the puppet master is. These people that are in power, that are holding on to powers in the French, in the Francophone countries, these are employees of the French. Like I said, do you remember in school learning about indirect rule? That's how colonization happened, right? Indirect rule.
Yeah.
So for a minute, for 22 years, we were independent. Even though, like, people for 20 years, because Yahya Jammeh even removed us from the Commonwealth, right? But because the African cannot function without the white man being over them, the way Yahya Jammeh ruled, if he was under the French, they would have, removed him a long time ago. But we are also moving towards that French rule. So this is the people in Mali, the people in Ivory Coast, the people in Guinea-Conakry, and pretty soon the people in the Gambia are going to catch on. to what is going on. And the stability that we think we have is the fact that, you know, Mr. Trump, the Great White Hope, removed American troops, you know, in the Maghreb region, because this is a globalist war. It is a globalist war. So Donald Trump's America First agenda, which is he doesn't want America to meddle in other countries' business, is now slowly unraveling the lies and the lies of the French, because all these people, they wanted to rely on each other to continue to put a stranglehold on various African countries. So we are back in an era where the people are standing up to bring a complete stop to the colonization of West Africa, especially because, you know, the Francophone areas have never been completely free. And even Macky Sall of Senegal, even him, he is not safe because he's a French puppet. I'm telling you this right now. Even him, his position is not safe because these people believe, like Ouattara told Keita, he's the one that told Keita not to resign so that he can be able to stand on his position. He made him believe that the French are going to come and help him. He believed that ECOWAS is going to come and stand with him. Did you know that even the last meeting they had before they agreed with, you know, they come to an agreement with the military for the 12 months? Did you know that Ouattara, he was not even invited, because even ECOWAS, they know, like, okay, this guy, what he's pushing for is to go against the will of the people. And I'm telling you, in October, whatever his intentions are, if he brings it into effect, you are going to see the second coup happening. And then it would move to Guinea-Conakry. And eventually, even Barrow having the Senegalese troops there, he thinks they can save him. Now, the day that the Gambian people truly wake up to everything that is working, that is at work here, there's gonna be trouble because the people are not happy. You see what I'm saying? And when people are not happy, they have to look to the next best option. You see what I'm saying? And in this country, what can people do? The next best option is the military. I know Sheriff said the military belongs in the barracks, but I don't believe they only belong there. If we have civilians who are supposed to be representing the will of the people, the interests of the people, and they are not doing that, they are holding on to power, should we just allow them to use the military at will? No, the military's job is to help us get rid of criminals. And that's exactly what we are seeing in Mali, and is gonna morph into Ivory Coast, Guinea-Conakry, and eventually, since Gambia wants part of the Francophone, is gonna come there too.
All right, thank you for that.
My question to Mr. Afridamus is: imagine you become the president of the country, Gambia, for instance,
right?
And you disband the military completely. What would be your solution, to this kind of problems?
Oh,
That's not military.
First of all, you're talking about the military.
Yes, if there's no military in the country and you have this kind of problems, what would be a sustainable solution to it?
Well, first of all, I can't tell you exactly what that scenario would look like. But at one point, right, in Haiti, they had, when they had Papa Doc as their president, he disbanded the military, the police, right? But he did that so that he can hold on to the power. But when people became dissatisfied, the people took power into their own hands I'm telling you, the military here, the military is just a representation of the people. Power belongs to the people. And when the people give you the power, you will be able to operate. And if I'm in the Gambia, the military, if I were in charge and I become corrupt, you know, just like we have our civilian presidents, if I become corrupt, by all means, the people have every power to remove me. Whether they do that by having the military get me out of office or whatever way. If I want to hold on to power against the will of the people, by all means, the military should remove me out of office.
Yeah. You see, it's very interesting you brought Papa Doc of Haiti, because if you look at what's happening in Haiti, it's like a cyclical process. The military has been continuously intervening, in Haiti to solve a problem that has never been solved. So I think we have to look at all the solutions, towards minimizing or stopping these problems from happening.
But Sheriff.
Yeah.
Sheriff, sorry to cut you off, but okay, we have had few military people in power, right? Now let's compare that to the civilian rules. Like if people, you have to give the people something to make them believe that they are going to lose something. We shouldn't pretend like, oh yeah, these countries, these leaders, they brought sunshine and butterfly, everything is nice, it's paradise, the people are happy. That's not what we are dealing with here. It's not like these guys are hard workers, they are doing great for the people, and all of a sudden the military is like, you know what, we want to be in power so bad, let's go remove this person out of office. If that happens, the people are going to turn against the military.
Right.
But if you see the people celebrating with the military, that obviously means that they are showing that, hey, you are here to rescue us from our tyrants. That's exactly what happened. Didn't we see the same thing in Khartoum, in Sudan, not that long ago? We saw the same exact thing happening in that country. The people they were willing to put their lives on the line. So we can talk constitution all we want, but if we have people in power saying that, they only talk about constitution when it fits them, but not when it fits the people that they are representing, that is an absolute problem. And I know, like military governments, they are not perfect, but somehow when a military person takes over, that's when we put on, our microscopic lenses and we try to find out every little issues they have. Can you imagine if we put on our microscopic lenses, on these quote unquote civilians? It doesn't matter what position you're coming from or what branch you're coming from. It is about what you're bringing to the people. Like, yeah, Jamie.
So
right?
are you saying that there's less scrutiny with civilian governments than it is with military?
Okay. When it comes to because we have to look at the puppet master here. The puppet master sets up the narrative, because generally when you have a civilian, a military government, the reason why they are coming, first of all, they are in defiance against the civilian government, and that means they are against that civilian government's masters. You see, so their masters are the ones. Yeah, so the masters are the ones that try to put it in our head that no, you know what, you Africans, you don't need somebody to take power through the barrel of a gun. We want our man to be in charge, but do they ever ask the people what they really want? They never do. So they try to scrutinize the military government, because the military government is there to disrupt their program.
So,
That's how it
basically,
always is.
so basically, you're saying that the idea of a civilian-led government is an imported concept. So, regardless of what's going on, it is okay to have the military to step in to rescue the people. Is that what you're saying? That we should not just
Yeah.
conform to the Western style of leadership, saying that a civilian has to be in power, but sometimes the military, being part of the country as well, should, be in power. So I'll come back to that. But Mr. Sheriff, do
Yes,
you
sir.
think, this coup that's just happened in Mali, is it a referendum on other leaders in West Africa? I know you've mentioned Ivory Coast and Guinea, and we're trying to go into Gambia now. Is this a referendum because the people are watching? So what's your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely it is. I know Mr. Afridamus and I have our differences when it comes to whether the military should be the last resort or not. But yes, it is, because there are certain events, major events that happen in one country that would trigger some other events in another country. And what happened in Mali, like Mr. Afridamus said, rightly so. It could happen, in Ivory Coast. It can happen, in Guinea as well. The parallel that we can draw between these various leaders in West Africa is this. In Mali's case, Babakar Keita lost the confidence of the people because they believed that he rigged the elections. And it created a constitutional crisis. They went to court, and of course, whether the court was partial or impartial, that's up to the jury to decide. But the court ruled in his favor, but still that did not boost the confidence of the people. And it led to the rise of the June 5th movement that went against him. And the wave of protest that ensued is what ultimately led Mali into this situation. What African leaders tend to disregard is the sovereign will of the people. It is the people who vote them into office, and it is the sovereign will of the people that will sustain them in office. If you lose that sovereign will to a point that your own government resigns, it should be an alarm to you that, it is time for me to quit. The same thing that we have in Ivory Coast, as Ms. Afridamus, just pointed out. They have to understand the difference. Because something is constitutional doesn't really mean it's right. You have to have the ethical leadership. Like, for instance, in the case of the Gambia, we have, and I'm going to point this out because people need to understand this. There's a danger that the Gambia is facing. Like Mr. Afridamus said, we have a president who came with an electoral promise that he was going to stay in office only for 3 years and then call for fresh elections. Well, we all know that he has disregarded that electoral promise. Constitutionally, it is true. The Constitution has given him a 5-year mandate. The second electoral promise was, I'm not going to stand again for election at the end of my term. We know that, he has also stepped back from that promise. So this is the tendencies that African presidents, have. That ethics is knowing what your rights are and knowing what the right thing to do is. Because you have the right to do something doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. So unless, they learn to differentiate between the two, to be an ethical leader, they will always put their countries, in a very sticky situation. This is what happened in Mali, and Guinea has been through the same crisis. Ivory Coast, is also facing the same danger, and Gambia is not an exception. So rightly so, it might happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we all have the same hallmark of the problems that has led to the military.
Okay, so yeah, I'll let you attend to your daughter there while I switch to Afridamus here. So, Mr. Afridamus, we've seen when the coup happened in Mali, and Watson Gambia wrote a little bit piece trying to, draw in similarities with what happened in Mali and the possibility of that happening in Gambia. So the government was adamant about it, and Watson Gambia had to take down that story. So with the advent of the things that happened in Gambia with but the borough government promising a 3-year rule, the coalition, I would say. And then, he reneged on the promise. And now we saw the 3-year movement, 3 years Jotna came and all those things happened. Now the dust is some kind of settled and, he's pursuing a 5-year term. And initially, the promise was that, they should not have he should not even be in a position to pursue to go into elections next time. But we've seen him form a party and things are transitioning to where he could potentially run for the presidency. So with this happening in Mali and people looking at the wave of events, do you think it's a possibility that what happened in Mali could happen in the Gambia?
Thank you. I can assure you right now, just like Sheriff, brought up the fact that Mr. Barrow, the president we have today, he came into power through a coalition, right? A coalition brought him into power, and he was supposed to stay for only 3 years, and he reneged on that. Then you have people that came up with, the 3 years movement came. They feel like they quickly crushed it. But I can assure you, that movement did not completely die. It's still alive, it's just on the ground, right? When you lie to people, feeling that you are in power, you lie to them. It's just a temporary solution. It sticks in people's mind. First, you said 3 years and you totally ignored it. Right? Then you went on to not only ignoring it, you're going for 5, and you came up with your own political party, which you weren't supposed to. So now you've broken every promise that is there. Now you've raised alarm bells in people's head to let them know that, what you told them, their wishes means nothing to you. Few people are advising him, telling him they would protect people. You cannot be protected against the people, because now, like I said, the reason why these people are getting removed from office through the barrel of a gun is because of broken promises. So Gambia is no exception. People might not like what I'm about to say, but Mr. Barrow thinks he is protected, but his lies are going to stick in the minds of the people. There will be an uprising against him because people are going to start looking at his incompetence. They are going to start looking at the events that are taking place in these various Francophone countries that he is aligning himself with. Gambian people, the majority of Gambian people, do not want to be under French rule, nor do they want to be ruled by Senegal. So now, if this veil is removed completely, which I'm seeing it coming, how do you think they are going to react? Seriously, how do you think they are going to react? Having foreign troops guarding you did not protect President Jawara. So it's not going to protect President Barrow when the time comes. So these broken promises, the people that do it, they are not there. Obviously, they are not there for the people. It's not about their competence. It is about the fact that, hey, I'm in the big house and I'm going to get protection from X, Y, and Z. Now I'm going to hold on to power. But now we're looking at places like Mali. We're like, hey, look at Keita. Ouattara told him their French masters are going to protect him. That protection failed. And now that's going to embolden all the people that reside in countries where they have this incompetent civilian presidents who continually break promises and thinking that they're going to hold the power. See, folks, we cannot just condemn the military. We cannot just go to saying, oh, military coups should be condemned in West Africa. What about the civilian presidents who continually lie to the people and they continue to try to hold on to power? What about that? We have to look at, what brings the reaction. It's not, every action, there's a reaction to it. So you cannot condemn the military and not look at the causation of why. We have to look at the why. Why is this happening? And how competent is this government? So why should we just allow these people to just ignore the Constitution, ignore the promises, and try to use word semantics on us, boasting, talking about, pretty much what they are saying is they are giving the people the middle finger, saying, I can do whatever I want. They are taking the civilian population for granted. So as long as that continues to happen, we are going to see coups taking place in Africa. It's a fact. In an ideal world, I wouldn't want the military to step in and coup, but we have to also look at what we are working with. Ideal world and reality are two different things. We have to, work with what we have on planet Earth. We cannot say this is what happens in mass and go there. No, this is where we are at. This is what we're dealing with, and we have to work according to that.
Right. So thank you for that. Okay, go ahead, Sheriff.
What I was gonna say is,
I want to lean forward a little bit, Sheriff. Audio problems. Still not. I still can't hear you. Okay, so let me take it from there, and then can you hear him? Sheriff, go ahead.
Yeah, what I was
saying, I can hear you now.
Yeah, we need to go back and look at our governments, our government structure of government, and see where the gaps are. How and why are these leaders able to do certain things? That is where the issue is. Unless we strengthen those gaps and fill those gaps, I should say, we will not overcome, this problem that we're having in the first place. Like, how can one single individual change a whole constitution to satisfy his own selfish interests? Other countries don't have military coups, and they have more powerful armies than we do in Africa. But why are we going through this problem? We have to be honest. We have to be honest to go back and look at the structure of our government and then make changes to make sure these things don't repeat, again. Corruption is a key thing. Like in the Gambia, for instance, right now, we like you rightly pointed out, the coalition government promised a 3-year mandate. Well, constitutionally, they have the right to stay 5 years. It's not the right thing to do when you make an electoral promise to the people and then you fall back and do something entirely different. You create public discontent. The second thing is they were not supposed to contest their mandate, but then again, like you said, they disregarded the electoral promise. But what is more upsetting is how can everybody, with the exception of a few,
Sheriff, you want to lean forward a little bit?
Okay. What I'm saying is the president and the entire coalition government that are in existence right now tend to be okay with him breaking the electoral promise that he should not contest election at the end of his electoral mandate. That is a problem. We tend to focus only on the president, but the problems in Africa is not just one person's problem. The people that support him are also a very big problem. Somebody should be, no, you can't do this. But very few people condemn the president. And now you have the vice president and all those other people who are part of the coalition and they're still in the government are supporting him. So I think, honesty is one thing African leaders and politicians, should just be honest when they get into office to make sure that they obey the law, they respect the law, but we also need to put strong checks, to make sure that if somebody does something that is not right, regardless of who they are, the punishment should be severe enough that, it will not be repeated again. And you did say, yeah, Jammeh brought something good. Well, dictators, the good thing that they have is, they use their coercive power to the full advantage to make sure that there is discipline, that they will not, their power will not be threatened. And, to be quite frank, it stems out corruption, in a lot of countries because they're the only ones who can eat. People are fearful. And once they leave, corruption starts again.
Sir, I don't want to,
Yes.
sir, I want to cut you off, but yeah, Jammeh been given the dictator label, right? That's from the West. This is, we have to be honest about one thing. Yeah, Jammeh, the constitution he brought, right? We have to remember, he did not just change the constitution on his own. That part, we have to respect the man for that. He put it up for referendum. He did not put himself in a corner and gave himself and say, hey, this is the term limit. The guy won every election, subsequently. We have to also look at that. He kept with that promise. You see what I'm saying? So, yes, are there negative things that happen? We don't only have to look at, the negative parts of things. We have to look at the positive part. Yeah, Jammeh did not promise Gambian people and say, I'm only going to be able to run for 2 terms. That's not what he said. It was unlimited, and it was open to any Gambian to contest and challenge him. But if you look at it, the way Mr. Barrow came to power, this is just, is completely, how do I put it? It started with lies. It started with lots of disagreements. So now this is going to, this Mali situation, and eventually, like I said, these countries that I pointed out. Look at Conde. Conde's situation is similar. It's similar to what is happening in the Gambia. We have to think about this. When Yahya Jammeh, during the impasse, who were the people that were playing a huge role in trying to rid the Gambia of Yahya Jammeh? It's presidents from the Francophone countries. Who robbed Yahya Jammeh of his properties that he stole, that people said he stole from the Gambia? It was this same Alassane Conde. You see what I'm saying? So we have to look at things with an honest lens and look at the motives and look at the people that are implementing these things. Who is behind them? Are these people serving the interests of the people, or they are there to control us?
Yeah, can I come in there? Afrodamus, that's one thing we have to understand when it comes to diplomatic relationships, between countries. There are certain things that drive, diplomacy. And within our context, in the Gambia, if you look at it, the relationship between Gambia, Senegal, Guinea, and Mali, it is more bounded by our cultural similarities, linguistic similarities, even though they're Francophone. But you have to look at the geographic location of the Gambia. If you read history, the Cabo Empire, straight down from, Mali, all the way to Senegal, Guinea, and, Gambia. Linguistically, we are very similar. Culturally, we are similar. Religiously, we are very similar. So to have influence, you must have, certain similarities with people, even in the United States. I mean, if you look at the United States, you look at Canada, you look at New Zealand, you look at the UK and Australia, Five Eyes. They share intelligence, their foreign policies are very strongly aligned. And they band together a lot when it comes to the international stage. So because one is Francophone, or the rest of the other countries are Francophone, and Gambia is Anglophone, they're trying to control us, I completely disagree with that. I think it is because of our strong cultural ties and linguistic similarities. And these are some of the reasons why they are engaging us more than other countries. Because Nigeria, we are completely different. Ghana, besides English, culturally, we are very far off. So we have to put that into perspective, when we are looking at the relationship between Gambia and this.
How come?
Yes.
But what I'm saying, how come, during independence, around the early 60s, more connection. We had more connection with places like Sierra Leone, Ghana, and Nigeria. You know, why is that? Because we share, you know, the same linguistic, a common linguistic language that we rely upon, which is English, right?
Yeah,
but okay, let's.
But
That's not even that important. That's not even that important to me, right? But for us to put ourselves, to put our country under, you know, align with francophone speaking countries. These countries are not fully independent from their French masters. So what to get from it?
Yeah, I think Gambia will never
Our own. We have
Senegal.
our own central. What I'm saying, we have our own central bank, right? We have
Yes.
our own central bank. These countries, the same one is printed in France. They don't have their own central banks. You see what I'm saying? Guinea-Bissau was originally a Portuguese-speaking nation, but now they are pretty much a French colony, because if the person that is printing your money, they are the ones that have control over you. Like today, the French hegemony in Mali is threatened. The Chinese hegemony is threatened in Mali. You see what I'm saying? So the chains of colonialism, people are not present in that manner, but their African puppets are pushing that agenda, and that agenda doesn't align the people on the ground, and the people are eventually going to be disgruntled. The people are going to be upset, because this economy that they are talking about, it doesn't trickle down to the people who, you know, enjoying it. How do you think the rest of the population is going to react? The people are tired. People do not want to be controlled by foreign powers. You know, in the Gambia, when we say colonialism, it wasn't the white people that were there 24/7. It was through what we call indirect rule. And that indirect rule is what we're seeing in these francophone speaking countries. And now it's made its way to Guinea-Bissau. It's made its way to Guinea-Bissau years ago, and now it's making its way to the Gambia. We are under Senegalese and French control. You know, whether we like to admit it or not, that's what is going on.
Yeah, but I don't believe Gambia would ever be.
All right.
Gambia will never be a puppet of France or a puppet of Senegal.
Well, yeah.
We've had this.
The people are going to reject it. People are going to reject it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. People will reject it because we've had that dance, you know, way back, you know, in 64, 65, prior to independence, when they didn't believe Gambia would be able to stand on its own. Of course, you know, right now people have this belief that there's undue influence, you know, externally on our current government, which, whether it's true or not, that's the perception that people have. But I think, you know, in the long run, Gambia is a sovereign state, and Gambia shall remain a sovereign state. The president of the country doesn't have the power to put the country in a treaty that will not be endorsed by the people. And I don't think, you know, we even have that kind of president, you know, that would, you know, that would even stay that long, you know, to be able to do that. Gambia will stand on its own. But what I believe,
trust me.
Yeah. Let me just put this last point across. What I believe is the old political philosophy that a country is not destroyed outside until it destroys itself inside. So we have to understand that whatever happens to us externally is something that we allow to happen internally. And we have to look within ourselves as a country to see how our governments operate, the kind of leaders we put into power, and how we hold them accountable. If we put puppet leaders there, they will listen to outsiders. If we put responsible leaders inside, and we elect officials and employ government officials that would uphold the trust of the people and work towards, you know, providing public goods and service for the common good, we'll be all right. If we don't do that, then this kind of problems will continue in Africa. But France, yes, France and the UK are
even in Gambia, it would be hard. What I'm saying is, right?
Yeah.
It's hard for us to even say we are a sovereign nation We have foreign troops in our country. We have foreign troops that are protecting
Yeah.
our president. We don't even have control
Okay,
of
let me cut you there. Let me cut you there again.
our waters,
Uh,
our natural resources.
Okay, let me cut you there, guys, real quick. Okay. So, you mentioned something that's very intriguing: the presence of foreign troops in the Gambia. I remember, during the TRRC, most of the reasons that were put forward by those military leaders, Sana Sabali, Edward Singade, they kept talking about the presence of the Nigerian soldiers in the Gambia. Okay. And today we are seeing the same trend with the presence of foreign troops. We had the Ghanaian troops, when, uh, everything started with Barrow, but now we started, the Senegalese stayed. Okay. And with them staying, it brings some kind of discontent within our own military because they are looking at it from a faction that, okay, why don't he trust us enough, you know, to guard him or to be leading military affairs in the country. So now that mistrust between the executive and the military is going to cause, some problems, between. And that I think is another reason why we should be looking at things, very carefully in the Gambia and try to see that, we do not have a repeat of what happened. So that's why with these things happening in Mali, that's why I'm asking. So, Mr. Afrodamas, what do you think? What kind of impact do you think that could have in our country, the presence of those foreign troops and its relations to coups and stuff like that? And another thing too that I want you to expound on is the energy sector. Our reliance in the north bank of the country to Senegal, giving them contracts, to run our energy sector. And energy is something that relates to national security. So can you just expand on that a little bit?
We're talking about what is ideal versus reality. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results is the true definition of insanity. This, okay, those troops coming in the beginning during the impasse and bringing in stability, it was necessary at the time. People saw that, right? But now, what is the intention? Are we a sovereign nation, or we have a puppet master there who's put there by Senegal, and then Senegal brought their own military, under the disguise of ECOWAS, and call it a different name, ICOMOT, whatever the name is, to pretend like this is the Gambian people. If the Gambia has military, Gambia has their own army, they should transition to that right away. But constantly trying to show that you do not trust, your own people, that is a problem. Like you said in the TRRC, one of the catalysts that led up to the 1994 coup, that was one of the main reasons President Jawara brought in Nigerian troops, surrounded himself with them. And I understand why these people do this, because they figured, oh, these guys are not Gambians, so they cannot be president here. So therefore, they have no interest, in removing me. Idea. And all it's doing is you're belittling your people, you're making them feel less than, and prove that they are incompetent. Today, we look at our soldiers, people, even they are so depressed by this, to a point we've even seen a video of a soldier, you know, with his whiskey bottle, drinking in public, broad daylight, and he didn't even care. But none of us are looking at what is leading up to this. Is it possible these soldiers are depressed? Is it possible that they feel less than? should remain that way. Yes, you said the Ajame is removed. Fine. But how long are these foreign troops going to continue to play a role that our own soldiers are supposed to play? Let's just call a spade a spade. Either we agree that we are under Senegalese control, or we are a sovereign nation. And if we are a sovereign nation, we put our own soldiers in charge.
Okay.
Presidents, the people the civilian presidents we select, right? If they don't have an evil intention, if they themselves believe in their own, competence, why would they not allow their own citizens to be their protection? Why not? So that's
an excellent.
Yeah, and like
So
I
do you
said,
think?
go ahead.
Now, I was just going to ask, do you think the security sector reform that's happening in Gambia, is it being prolonged unnecessarily?
Oh yeah, I mean, look, they're trying to use their bureaucratic powers. They want to legislate everything. You see what I'm saying? And they are not doing what is in the interest of the people. They are legislating things that protects them. Things that are in their best interest and their best interest only. You see, and that doesn't last long. We've seen it in 1994, same scenario. The military could not be stopped by the Nigerian foreign troops. Okay, first of all, why? If if Gambian troops, for example, decide, you know what, we're sick and tired of this, and they are backed by majority of the Gambian population to the president, are these Senegalese troops going to fire upon the Gambians? Is that what happen? Because if that happens, that's recipe for war.
Yes.
To engage them, they are not supposed to engage the troops militarily unless they are an occupying force. If they are an occupying force, then they would fire upon the Gambian people. And when that happens, breakdown of society.
That's absolutely true. So before we wrap up, can you tell us what do you think we should do either in the Gambia or in the sub-region to avoid situations like this to where the military has to step in?
To select and elect competent leaders who are going to keep their promises and who they are not there to serve the interests of foreign powers. You see, I'm not saying we shouldn't have anything to do with the outside world. That that doesn't even make sense. We need each other. You see what I'm saying? But we need people in power who are competent. And if you know that you are incompetent, you cannot run a country, do not throw your hat in the ring. Simple as that. I would say this in Mandinka Kanela Nafoke, Kulupano Nyinkono, for one thing. So this idea to try to embark on, thinking that it is the old system, thinking your foreign allies, the foreign allies can protect you against the will of the people. It's not going to work, as we are seeing in Mali. And this is going to have a ripple effect, and I hate to tell you people, but West Africa is back to the 90s because the people did not get anything, out of, you know, out of what is going on. So it is back to the 90s, you know. So if, as long as the leaders continue with their greed, you know, their broken promises, not serving the interests of the people, we should continue to see a lot of this.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. Afrodamos. Mr. Sheriff, can you give us any last words, before we go?
Yes, I'm gonna echo what Mr. Afredamo said. Responsible leadership. We need missionary leaders and not mercenary leaders. Leaders that would uphold the public trust, provide public goods and services, and stamp out corruption, do the right thing, and not only think about their own personal self-interest. If we can do that, to develop in our countries, to make sure we have strong institutions and bring sustainable economic development to our countries, I think we'll be all right. But unless that, we'll only be going through the cycle of military coups and civil unrest in West Africa. And it's sad to see that we are stepping back into the 1990s at this day and age. But no country is an exception. If you don't respect the sovereign will of your people and work in their best interest, you are more likely to court their anger than love and loyalty.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Mr. Afrodamos, for joining us again today, and we really appreciate you coming on board, to join us to have this important conversation about the coup in Mali and its impact in other countries. My co-host, thank you, Mr. Sheriff Cora. And guys, I'm your host, Ibrahim Senghor, and please, like our page, LSTV1 on Facebook, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, LSTV1 on YouTube. And thank you guys so much. Until we see you guys next Saturday, we'll be around, to talk about more important and fruitful discussions. Thank you for your time, and I will see you next Saturday.
I salute you, sir. And